You ever hear about a woman so obsessed with perfection? She burned a pregnant mother alive just because her flowers didn't match the HOA's aesthetic. Yeah, that happened. Now let me tell you how a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood turned into a war zone, and how one grieving husband, a man you really shouldn't mess with, turned the flames of loss into the fire of justice. His name's Mason Granger, 40 years old, retired Navy SEAL, the kind of man who's seen enough war zones to crave nothing more than peace. And that's what he thought he'd found when he and his wife Elena moved into Meadow Ridge Oaks, a quiet suburban community with clean sidewalks, friendly waves from porches, and an HOA that claimed to protect harmony. Yeah, they didn't mention the part where harmony meant one woman's iron fist. Her name was Brenda Holloway, 60, platinum bob, silk scarves even at 6 a.m., jogs. President of the HOA for 9 years straight and completely unopposed. Why? Because anyone who went up against her either moved or disappeared in quiet and unsettling ways. Mason and Elena moved in when Elena was 6 months pregnant. Their first child, a boy they planned to name Samuel. She'd rub her belly and whisper to him while unpacking boxes, "This is gonna be home, baby." And Mason believed her. He wanted to believe her. Until the first fine showed up. "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Granger, your mailbox is 2 inches taller than HOA regulations permit. Please replace within 10 days or incur a $250 fine." They laughed it off at first. Who cares about a mailbox, right? But the second fine came 3 days later, then another, and another. Too many garden gnomes. Garage door painted an unapproved shade of white. A wind chime that was apparently disruptive to the natural soundscape. Yeah, no joke. A wind chime. Now. Mason had learned patience in the field. But Brenda, she was testing limits he didn't even know he had. And Elena, poor thing. She just wanted a quiet pregnancy. Let's just pay them. "Babe," she'd say, "after the baby comes, we'll figure it out." But the fines weren't the worst of it. Brenda started showing up, unannounced, clipboard in hand, always that tight-lipped smile, like she was doing you a favor by invading your space. One Tuesday morning, Mason had barely left for base when Brenda let herself into the backyard, claimed she was inspecting water drainage compliance. Elena caught her poking around near the nursery window. "I'm going to need to verify that your son's name won't be painted on the mailbox," Brenda said, flat, like she was discussing a code violation, not someone's unborn child. Elena called Mason that afternoon, voice shaking. She said the baby might not be real. She asked for proof like a doctor's note. Mason, what kind of person does that? And that's when Mason knew. This wasn't just about rules. This was personal. So he tried to stay calm. He documented every visit, took photos, kept a timeline. He'd been trained to handle threats with precision, but nothing had prepared him for what would come next. Because one night while Mason was leading a late-night training drill at base, the unthinkable happened. At exactly 11:42 p.m., he got a call from his neighbor, Mrs. Delgado. Her voice was frantic. "Mason, your house, it's on fire." "We called 911, but..." Elena's still inside. He didn't remember driving. He just remembered the smoke, the flashing lights, the way the heat hit his face before he even made it out of the truck. And the sound, God. The sound when he realized there was no sign of Elena or Samuel. They were gone. The next morning, Detective Morales pulled him into a side room. "Mason, this wasn't an accident. Someone used accelerants, multiple points of origin. This was set deliberately. Arson, murder." And Mason already knew who did it. Brenda. But knowing wasn't enough, not in court. And Brenda, she played her part well, crying at the memorial, hugging neighbors, telling reporters how deeply saddened she was. But Mason saw it. That flicker, that smug twist at the corner of her mouth, when she thought no one was looking. He started digging. He found out Brenda had been divorced twice. Both husbands listed mental cruelty and obsessive control in their filings. One had even moved states with a restraining order. More disturbing. Mason uncovered a pattern. Over the past 5 years, 5 families had left Meadow Ridge Oaks after filing complaints about Brenda's behavior. Every one of them had suffered accidents right before moving house fires, flooding, even a collapsed retaining wall. In each case, Brenda had initiated multiple violations beforehand. It was like she was cleansing the neighborhood. But there was something else, someone else. A man named Arlo Dent, 48, handyman, owned a van labeled Dent Fix Repairs. Mason found his name buried in repair invoices linked to Brenda's HOA. But what stood out, witnesses had seen a man matching Arlo's description near the Granger house the night it burned. Mason tracked him, followed him, listened. And one night, Arlo talked. He met Brenda in a park. Mason had placed a listening device in Brenda's bag the week before, and this time, he heard it all. "I used gasoline from different stores," Arlo said. "No receipts, no trail. Good." Brenda replied, "It needed to be done. That woman was emotional pollution. And that baby. That child would have grown up just like them." Mason nearly crushed the speaker in his hand. He had them. But he wasn't done. He wanted Brenda to feel the panic, the cracks in her perfect life. So he leaned on Arlo first, cornered him in the alley behind a dive bar, played him the recording, and gave him a choice: confess and cooperate, or go down alone. Arlo folded like a house of cards. He agreed to wear a wire. The next day, Brenda met him again. Arlo played the part. "What if the cops find out?" he asked. "That guy, Mason, he's ex-military." Brenda scoffed. "Let him dig. He's grieving. They'll think he's crazy." "But what if someone talks?" Arlo pressed. "They won't." Brenda snapped. "And if they do, we handle it, like we always have." And right on cue, squad cars pulled up. Brenda Holloway was arrested mid-sentence. The trial was brutal. Brenda's lawyer tried to dismiss the recordings as emotionally charged exaggeration. But Arlo's testimony, the audio files, Mason's detailed timeline, it all painted one picture. Brenda hadn't just murdered Elena and Samuel. She had created a reign of fear, and the jury saw right through her. Guilty on all counts. First-degree murder, arson, conspiracy. Brenda's perfect world crumbled in that courtroom. And Mason, he didn't smile. He didn't cry. He just closed his eyes and exhaled. But that wasn't the end. Mason took all the grief, the rage, and the loss, and he built something from it. He started a non-profit neighborhood justice to help families fight back against abusive HOAs. He used his training, his network, and his story to expose the rot hidden behind white fences and manicured lawns. He didn't remarry, didn't rebuild that house. But every week, he visited Elena and Samuel's grave, left a single yellow daisy, her favorite. "I got them," he'd whisper, "but I'm not done." And you know what? 2 years later, when the HOA was officially disbanded and replaced by a resident-led group built on kindness, not control, kids started playing in the street again. Lawns weren't perfect anymore, but they were real. Mason planted a wildflower bed where Elena's roses once were. No rules, no fines, just beauty that didn't ask for permission. Some folks called Mason a hero. Others said he went too far. But let me ask you this: if someone burned down your world, wouldn't you want to build something stronger from the ashes? Let me know what you think. Was Mason justified? Did he go too far or not far enough? Drop your thoughts below, because justice don't always wear a badge. Sometimes it wears scars.